Let me sit in the right place. Move over. So I fill the screen a little more. Hello, good evening. It's Sunday, it's 8 o'clock, and it's time for some more Doctor Who. And tonight we are doing the episode Father's Day. And with me, of course, is Chris. So, hello, Chris.
Hello, Chris. I have to keep a straight face when we do that. It's hilarious.
Yeah. So, tonight we're doing the Series 1, Episode 8 of Doctor Who, Father's Day. This one, for me, is the one whereby it's an episode where I can take it or leave it. And it's not that it does anything particularly bad. But I tell you, we'll talk about it a little bit more. But what were your first impressions on seeing this episode?
Interesting concept with the way they set up what happens during a paradox. It was good for building some history for the Tyler family.
Yep.
But as we know from doing these videos, the whole soap opera thing kind of gets on my nerves a little bit. So this is a bit of a chuckle episode for me now. Now, what's his name? Dingwall, that plays Pete Tyler.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic actor. He's a good standard British television actor. No issues with any of the acting in this at all. It's just a little bit EastEnders for me with all the family type stuff. It's not a horrible episode. No. You know, there's no Absorbalofts or rubber frogs or Cyberman heads or anything like that. It's just it is what it is, I suppose. I don't know. It's starting to put my finger on it. It's not boring. It's not right. It's very middling.
So I think a lot of people love this episode for a good reason.
I'm popular then.
Yeah, no. A lot of people love this episode for a good reason, and that's because that it does relationships very, very well. That's what this episode does. It is a relationship-focused episode. So, for anyone who was into, what was that on TV at the time? There, probably the OC, things like that. Those sorts of teeny dramas. I think if anybody was into those sorts of things, they would have been into this episode because it's a very much a relationship episode, but it's a relationship between Rose and her father. And I think this episode is particularly written just for Pete Tyler. This is Sean Dingwall, and he is the centerpiece of this episode. Why? So for me, it's an episode that I can take or leave. Out of season 1 of Doctor Who, this is the episode that I can go. I watch it and I enjoy it, and I think it's got some good ideas. It's just the one that even when we look at like the bad ones from this season, and there's not particularly terrible ones, but if you look at the bad ones from this, I can still take it over this because I think they're a little more fun. Like, I don't think Boomtown is a great episode, but I don't think Boomtown is as good as an episode as this. But I think it's more fun. And you can have more of a laugh with Boomtown, whereas this is taking time travel a bit serious, and it's as you said, it's a bit EastEnders. Well, I mean, my take on this episode was always, because it was set in 1987, my take was that if you took the science fiction out of it, it's Minder.
Yeah.
And you can even sort of hear the Minder theme when Pete comes on screen. Like, do you know what I mean? There's a sort of a very sort of Dennis Waterman about him.
You mean he wants to write the theme tune, sing the theme tune?
Yeah. So I mean, it's a complex. I tell you what I think about this episode overall. The things it does good, it does extremely good. But the things it does bad are absolutely terrible. So, for example, the relationship status of this episode with all the relationships between Rose and her father and all this stuff, that works really, really well. The science fiction aspect of this story, however, doesn't really work. It's great that it approaches the whole paradox scenario, time travel and stuff. It's just that there's a little bit too much of sci-fi magic in this, as opposed to logical step science.
I'll tell you a bit. I haven't watched this one.
Oh,
I might have only ever seen this one twice. Originally when it was on, and then maybe once since. But if memory serves me right, is this the one where they go to get in the Tardis, and the Tardis is just a box?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that is something I like. That was an idea I liked. Is like you buggered it up so badly that now you can't get out of it.
Yes and no, but this is my point really, because the things that happen are interesting, but the explanation as to why they're happening is terrible. So, for example, right, we know this is coming up later on in the episode when we get to it. There is a scene in the church whereby the doctor's looking after baby Rose. And he says, no, don't touch the baby because that'll create a paradox and will wipe out whatever. And there's two problems with this. One, there's already a paradox, so you can't have a paradoxical paradox. And the other thing is that I've always hated the idea that if you've got two people from two different parts of the timeline, why can't they touch? It doesn't make sense. They're not occupying the same space. You're still occupying two different spaces. If I touch myself, I'm not creating a paradox. Why? What is that?
I'll tell you what. That was not a sentence I was expecting to hear this thing.
No, but I mean, like, it's just bizarre. Like, why would I mean? I can touch my own right now, and if I was from a different time, I'd still be able to do that. I'm not intruding on my own skin.
The thing is, we don't know, do we? Because no one's ever done it.
But it doesn't make any sense that it would.
It doesn't, mate.
So, and it's not only Doctor Who that does this. Other shows have done this as well. And it doesn't make sense because the Doctor has gone into his own time stream before and crossed over and met himself before, and that's had no problems. And the other thing that this episode does, which and it's not this episode's fault, by the way. I want to stress this. It introduces the idea of these Reapers.
Yeah.
And these Reapers are a plot device idea. Essentially, these are in Back to the Future, when this paradox wipes out people in Back to the Future. In that storyline, they just fade out of the photograph. The Doctor Who version of fading out of the photograph is to have a monstrous manifestation that's going to devour people and eat them alive. And it's a great concept. I love the concept of these creatures. I'm not so keen on the design. It's okay, but why haven't we seen them since? Like, and it's explainable why we haven't seen them before, because the Doctor says the Time Lords would have dealt with it. There's no more Time Lords. So why haven't we seen the Reapers since? When things have happened, when Day of the Doctor happens, when all these rips in time occur, and again, it just comes back to the fact that the Doctor Who universe is inconsistent with itself. And there's no reason why you've got all these built-in elements that you just they have them for 1 week and then just dispose of them. And I'm like, this is such a good thing. Like, the reason why you can't create a paradox isn't just that you're going to wipe out the universe. You're going to unleash these Reapers, which you can't stop. There's no opposing force for these Reapers. So, it's this episode creates some good stuff, but then it just again, the things he does great, and the things he does bad, it does terrible. And it's one of those episodes as well that is very much most of it, if not all of it. No, there's one scene that's shot in the studio, the rest of it shot on location. So it's very much a location heavy shoot. Shot in four locations, I think. Some of it is probably just the other end of the street. So, but it's another sort of budgetary constraint episode. We've had 3 in a row, and of course we're building up to Barton and the Ways. The other thing I'm going to say before we make a start as well, this episode was written by Paul Cornell. Paul Cornell, as we know, wrote Scream of the Shalka. And he also wrote Family of Blood and Human Nature. This week he's come in for a bit of criticism. And I've got to be honest, I'm going to defend him a little bit because I can understand part of the criticism, and the other part is that I can understand him not entirely. So what's happened is that they had a screening, I think, of Human Nature and Family of Blood. And basically what it was, that people on Twitter were getting really, really angry with him because he blocked them. He was blocking people all the time. And he blocked loads of people. And people were like, he's blocked me and I haven't even spoken to him. So they're getting really annoyed with it. Well, I'm going to stick up for him here and say maybe he doesn't know how to use Twitter that well. I mean, maybe the fact that he blocked them was unintentional. Like, I can't see somebody wanting to block people just for the sake of blocking them, particularly if he'd never interacted with them. So I'm going to put that down to the fact, because I've done it before. I've nearly cancelled my own account on Facebook before now. Because we didn't know what I was doing. So I'm going to stick up for him there. The bit where I'm going to take issue is the fact that in the novelization for Family of Blood and Human Nature, he has now rewritten the ending. And he's now rewritten the ending with an epilogue on the end, where David Tennant's doctor leaves, Jodie Whittaker's doctor shows up, and then apparently decides to, spoiler alert here, let sister of mine out of the mirror. And I'm not sure why he's done that. I can't personally draw criticism for him myself because I haven't read it, but that's apparently what he's now rewritten the story in favor of the 13th Doctor, and has kind of been a bit sucky to Chris Chibnall's, and has been sort of kind of defending Chris Chibnall's ideas for the Doctor. So he's drawn a lot of criticism. I don't know what you think of that, Chris.
I think that's a bit silly. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of the Family of Blood stories anyway. And in fact, going on the ones we're talking about, I think he peaked with Scream of the Shalka. So,
well, I mean, Ian's back again. Hello, Ian.
All right, Ian.
Hope you're having a good night. I will say this. Do you remember when we were watching Scream of the Shalka, how we were talking about how he comes up with these different ideas, and some of the ideas that he comes up with I thought were really, really good. And then in this, so let me just give you an example. In Scream of the Shalka, where he falls into the black hole, he has a piece of the TARDIS on him.
Yeah.
And he reconstructs the front door of the TARDIS. So you can enter into the TARDIS, because once you've got a piece of the TARDIS exists where that is.
Yeah.
Right. So he does the same thing here with Father's Day. He has a piece of the TARDIS and he tries to reconstruct the TARDIS from the key. The problem is, I think you need a bit more than a key and a battery. And it's really not it's really again, the things that it does good in this episode, it does great. And the things it does bad, it does poorly. And the science fiction in this part of the story, for me, is terrible. I understand why people love this story. I understand why people love the relationships. But the science fiction in this episode is absolute pants. The fact that the car keeps following him, there's no need for that. There's no need for, like, Pete could have gone back to the scene. He might have pieced it together and gone back to the scene. But they kind of cheapened out here and went, no, the car follows him around.
Yeah, they've kind of... Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, I first and foremost, I watched this program for the sci-fi. So the less of that there is, and the worse it is, the worse it makes me. As we're talking about this, I'm remembering more and more the episode, and I've forgotten all about the mini version of the film Duel that we've got going on.
Yeah. I mean, the car's just chasing him down all the time. So it's not awful, right? But again, this is why I can take and leave the episode, is because the things it does really good, like the relationship stuff with the father, the whole setup. Basically, what happens in this episode is that the relationship is between Rose and her father, and they become the protagonists. The Doctor and Jackie become the antagonists in this episode, because this is all built around Pete Tyler.
Yeah.
So he becomes the centerpiece of this episode, and the Doctor has to take a backseat. So rather than give the Doctor this neutral role where he's just sitting around talking or sitting around just chatting with people, they've given him an adversarial role in this. And I think the problem with that is the fact that the Doctor's kind of acting out of character, in the fact that he's mopey and throws a tantrum, and he puts Rose's emotions ahead of logical thought at the cost of human life. And I can't believe the Doctor would ever do that. So
not at all.
It's just one of those things. So that's why I can take and leave this episode. It's because there are things that the Doctor does in this episode where I'm not quite. It's counter behaviour for the Doctor. You know, I can understand everybody having a tantrum once in a while and throwing a strop, particularly when he has the strop with Rose. But the way it's being written, it's almost like the other person's not hearing the argument. Like when Jackie is arguing with Pete Tyler outside the church, Jackie is just not hearing a single word Pete is saying. Like he's saying, look, you know, she's just somebody I picked up on the street. She saved my life and all this stuff. And Jackie's just like bang, 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 bang at him. And there's a point whereby even Rose accuses Pete of having an affair. And you've got to think to yourself, well, to be honest with you, if he's mad at Jackie and she's like that all the time with him, it kind of makes Pete like going, oh man, I can understand. I can understand why you would have an affair. Do you know what I mean? It's not being cruel to Jackie, but if you listen to that argument, it's just non-stop henpecking from Jackie through the entire argument. She has nothing positive to say about Pete whatsoever. She's just having a go at him, and it's in the middle of the street as well, you know, in front of everyone at this wedding. So it's kind of like.
I have to say as well, if memory serves me well, Camille Codry absolutely shines in this episode. I'll give her that.
Oh yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, she does brilliantly in there. They all do brilliantly. What an amazing cast, great cast. And again, we're talking about Sean Dingwell in this episode. Before this episode, I think, you know, we're talking what was his major thing before this? Soldier. I think I mean that was a huge show before this.
I never watched it, but yeah,
it was a huge show. I mean, we're talking Robson and Jerome and all that stuff. You know, that was a big show for him, and then to go from there. I mean, we're talking about 5-6 years after that he does this. You know, and this is probably his international claim to fame, I would say. I can't see or think of anything bigger that he would have been in. So yeah, that's pretty much it. The only thing I've got to say here about this episode is that, do you realise that this episode is set in 1987? It was filmed in 2004.
Yeah.
This episode is set almost as far away from 2004 as we are from 2004.
Yeah, thanks for that.
So, and just so you know this, just to make you feel even better, Julia Joyce, who plays young Rose Tyler, is now older than old Rose Tyler.
Seriously?
Julia Joyce, who plays little Rose Tyler in the start of the episode.
All right, yeah.
She is now 22.
Lovely.
Yeah. And Rose Tyler in the episode is supposed to be 19. So, but that's something. I've got stuff for us to talk about after this episode. Let's just get into doing this episode, I think. I'm getting ready to. It's got all queued up, ready.
I'm ready on 0 seconds of the actual program.
Well, my other moment in time is about to say BBC television program. So, and it usually takes a second or two for Netflix to queue. So I'll press go. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, I did it straight away. BBC television program. So this picture here of Sean Dingwell, they give him the leather jacket because they wanted him to sort of look a bit more like the Doctor. There it is, Julia Joyce. That photograph of Pete is actually taken in the vicarage next to the church that the show is set in.
All right.
It's all filmed in and amongst. We'll talk about this after the episode, but it's pretty much all set in and around the same couple of streets. So this is obviously in the studio. Yeah, she is now 22, and she's supposed to be 19. So she's actually older than herself. I hadn't noticed this before, but somebody pointed out the fact that Rose has been pointed out that she has been speaking about her father more and more. I hadn't noticed it before, and it was pointed out. Somebody said she talks about it in Unquiet Dead, and Gwyneth says to her, "Oh, you've been thinking about your father
Yeah.
now more than ever." So there's this whole thing of was this part of Rose's plan, and it's like maybe she was thinking about it, but I don't know whether or not she was actually thinking about. She wanted to see her father, but I don't think she was planning on saving him.
Yeah, well, if memory serves me well, that's more of a gut reaction than anything else.
Yeah, I think so. I can't see her doing this deliberately. Directed by Joe Ahern. Done 5 episodes, I think. The one thing I would say really makes this episode is the costumes and the hair and the sound.
Yeah, like we've said along, period stuff is what the BBC does well, as long as it's not in the future normally.
Yeah.
That's when the Baco foil comes out. Other brands are available, he says quickly.
Lovely looking angles on the Tardis. Lots and lots of fiberglass everywhere. And this is the bottom of St. Fagin Street in Cardiff. This is literally straight down the bottom end by the church.
Feels like Albert Square.
It's so this is filmed in 2 different locations primarily. The first one is Loudon Street, which is where sort of it's the Powell, where you see the Powell Estate flats, and the other one is in Paget Street and St. Fagin Street, which is this is Loudon Street here. This is also the street that you see in Part of the Ways where the TARDIS is parked, where Mickey comes in with a van and rips the console. Same place. I'm pretty sure if you look down the street, the car behind the Fiesta, I got a feeling is a 1999 Peugeot. Cavalier. No, a another thing to note too as well is that they use this clever little pan and scan technique here, whereby they've taken two images, cut and paste them together, and they literally just scroll across the image to make it look like there's two people in the same place at the same time.
Yeah.
And you can tell that that's exactly what they've done. They haven't used any motion control or anything. They've literally it's like they've taken a picture and just, well, what they've done is they've got a picture like, let's look here. How can I do this? So, yeah, this part here is two doctors, two rows. So they've taken two pictures, pasted them together like this.
Yeah.
And when they pan and scan, they do this to the image. And if you look, you can tell that's what they've done, because when it zooms in here, yeah, it actually goes really noisy. The picture becomes really fuzzy. When this pans back to them, you'll see they're quite fuzzy. And that has everything to do with the... probably what it says, that has everything to do with this time period of what they make it, how they make in Doctor Who. Because right now, what they're doing, you can't really get this show on Blu-ray. Here we go. Paradox. Yeah, you can't really get the show on Blu-ray because this show was written years. It was filmed on a Panasonic, what was it called, Vericams. And the Panasonic Vericams, you've got to remember the time period of when this was being made was 2004. HD was just a new thing. So the Panasonic Vericams, it's, what was it, AJHD 27 camera. It's 720p. That's what it records in. That's his native resolution. So you can't get this on Blu-ray because it wasn't. If you could get it on Blu-ray, it'll just be upscale.
Although, looking at it now, and I've got it on quite a big screen, for the time, it doesn't look too awful. So, yeah, like you say.
This is why this time period of Doctor Who has this particular look. Like when it jumps to Matt Smith, it looks completely different to this period. And that's because when they jumped to Matt Smith in 2010, the Arri Alexa is the new camera that comes out, and that's the new camera that they go with. So it's completely different. And the Arri Alexa is the camera that they shot things like Blade Runner on, Blade Runner 2049 on. It's a really much better camera. But the reason why this is why I have problems with people like shooting on like 4K stuff on, or they got 4K camera on their phones, because the 4K camera on their phones is like a 5mm sensor, whereas the camera that they're shooting on here is a 1-inch sensor. So this might be a smaller picture, but it's a clearer picture.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've got I think my phone can shoot in 4K, which is really stupid because it's only a 1080 screen or
yeah, and what's
HD times 2 or whatever. But it's not a 4K screen. Silly.
Yeah. But the cameras, what's happening there is the camera's recording to a codec, whereby what it does is it freezes the frame. Anything that's not moving in the frame becomes a JPEG, and it only moves it only records what's moving. Whereas what's happening here with this one is that this is only 720p, but it's recording a new frame every single time. So it's doing it a different way. That's why this picture, it might be a smaller picture, but it's clearer.
Yeah.
You're not going to get as many artifacts in this from this camera as you would from a 4K camera.
Yeah, I absolutely understand what you're saying, mate. I was just moaning about the stupid screen on my phone.
Yeah, no. That's the difference between broadcast quality and film cameras and camcorders and phone cams. Like phone cameras are good for what they are, and don't get me wrong, some of them have got excellent cameras on them. But the reason why this does it differently is because this records a brand new frame every single time, whereas a 4K camera on your phone doesn't do that. Yeah, see, you got this argument here when he swans off the strop. this whole strop from the doctor is just like, I don't get it. It's a temper tantrum.
Well, he's entitled to be a bit peed off because he's.
Of course,
if you
he is.
remember at the end of the last episode, when Adam says he wants to come and the doctor says to Adam, "No, I only take the best," and now she's got to have done this. So he's a bit peeved.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing. I understand him being peeved. This is next to the church as well. This garden. That's the garden that actually Peter was photographed in. No, I understand him being peeved. It's the strop I don't like. I can see that thing there. The homeless guy. He drops what's called crystal white cider. It's a brand that was invented for the show, and they never use it again. Like, why isn't everybody got like a bottle of crystal white? It would make the universe a little bit more cohesive. Like Vitex and stuff like that. Like what? Yeah, this is the inside of St. Paul's Church. I find this one particularly interesting though. Normally they'll choose a church or a location, like with the power estate or something like that. So they'll choose the exterior and then they'll, either build it as a set or they'll find a new interior because they want the interior to be, aesthetically pleasing or whatever. They went to St. Paul's and they thought, well, the exterior looks good. What's it like on the inside? They went in the inside and it was like, well, we just used the church. It's unusual that the location, both interior and exterior, is where it is. It's normally the interior is somewhere else. Talking of interiors, we're about to see this TARDIS inside out because there was no inside the prop there. It's normally black walls or the translate showing the TARDIS console room. To do this here, what they've actually done is they've actually turned the TARDIS inside out. That's the exterior walls just turned around. That's why they shoot it from this angle, because so to do that shot there, they had to actually build that TARDIS 3 times. The first time was so the outside, the walls were on the outside. Then because the walls were on the inside, and then because one of the walls was missing. Oh, yeah, they're on the 2004 Ford Fiesta there. The whitest car in the image. Oh, that's just unfortunate. Yeah, this is on what they call a process trailer. And yeah, the UK's process trailer is it's just not there. There's a Ford Focus play in the background quickly. Yeah, the British process trailer is not the same as a US process trailer. But that's something we'll talk about after this.
Okay.
But yeah, this is basically shot on a trailer, and they've got cameras pointing at A and B cameras pointed at her and Sean. But yeah, there's a big difference, and I'll show you it after this episode.
See, now that bit with the other car wasn't too bad.
But it's just the car's just been following him around. It's silly. I love all the 80s stuff that they throw in you. All the hair, the clothes. Use my problem, right? Not a problem, but use my preference. If you're gonna set something in the 80s, you should at least don't score it like a modern show. Use a bit more synth.
Yeah.
It's still a good.
That's. I've got. If I remember after the show, I've got a big issue with something like that from a film, and you've hit the nail right on the head.
But I mean, look, again, the hair, the costume. I mean, Jackie's hair there looks like the front of the Kylie Minogue album.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. Not that they'd coined that phrase yet.
Yeah, she called it that because she couldn't swear. This scene. This is the scene I was on about. If you listen to the conversation from Jackie here, you're like, why the hell do you want to marry her? She's just completely adversarial. The thing is, it's probably true.
Yeah.
I mean, she has nothing endearing to say about Pete Taylor whatsoever. Yeah, keep her off the street. I mean, why would you want to marry that? Well, you imagine, right? We've just been exposed to like 30 seconds of that. He lives with it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of that from a female looking in, began, yeah, bloody this, that, and the other. They're as bad as each other, aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
But the thing is, like, there's no benefit of the doubt there. Like, he's guilty. Like, this is Grange Park. Again, very close to where the church is. They don't stretch very far for Doctor Who. Like, but again, it works. This is why I have problems with them going to South Africa to shoot. Like, we're talking about a maximum of 3 streets.
Thing is, we know Jackie's feisty, having seen her up to this point in the.
Yeah, but this particular episode writes both Jackie and the Doctor as adversarial. Like, this is all about building the relationship between Rose and her father. So anything else is argumentative or inconsequential. She was nice in King Ralph. Yeah. She was lovely in King Ralph. This bit I don't like either. Why aren't people screaming in terror? Like Rose does here. But like they should all why are they not screaming? They should all be flapping.
They're portraying Londoners, mate. Oh, there's nails.
Again, this was directed by Joe Ahern, who done Part of the Ways. He done Boomtown. I've got it written down here. Where is it? I've got some of the ones. Yeah, he done Dalek, Boomtown, Bad Wolf, and Part of the Ways, and Father's Day. And the only other problem I've got with this is that the Doctor explains that these things are all over the planet, and every single time they show the exterior view, there's 3 of them. And there's only 3. The sky should be littered with them. And I mean, I understand there's probably a bit of a constraint with the CGI. The Doctor just immediately just became very, very sexy to Jackie. It's just like that one moment. She just went, turn on. Why is that a thing? Why? Why that phone? Why? This is my point. The things it does brilliantly, like this whole stuff, it does so well. All the character stuff is done amazingly. It's the science fiction nonsense that doesn't work, and the poor explanations for it. That's where it falls down. Why is Alexander Graham Bell on the end of the phone? It's a mobile phone. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Yeah, see, these things should be all over the planet, and that sky should be full of them. Kind of like with what's the Planet of the Dead.
Yeah, I suppose it's a budgetary thing, or perhaps that particular race only allocates 2 per street.
Yeah. They've got it all worked out with the logistics. So this part here with the Doctor and Pete, the inside of the church there is actually white, and the production had to paint it grey because it was too bright for the cameras. Because when they put the lights on, it just whited out everything out, so it became difficult to light. If you notice, the rest of the inside of the church is all white. Particularly for the style of lighting that they're using, because they quite often use what's known as Rembrandt style lighting, which is to have the light at a 45-degree angle to the actor. It creates this shadow down like sort of this part of the face, so that they've got bright light from one side, bright from this back area, and you've got this small bit of light on this side. It's often used, but in this it's used quite a bit. That's because she was cacking herself. You were about to crash into a gold, what was it, Vauxhall Cavalier?
Should bet.
Ah, yes, exactly. You push, I shove it. See, this is the way I don't think the whole touching the baby thing's a problem, is because technically his DNA is in her. I mean, no, he can't. I was going to clue. Great little acting from both these. Such a small scene.
Yeah.
Again, beautiful acting from Christopher Eccleston. Beautiful stuff. Yeah, no, you can really see the Rembrandt lighting working here because you can see the shadow of heavy shadows on the side of his face there, and his ears being illuminated, and it's a very pleasant looking lighting system.
You're not in it, mate.
I mean, he because he dominates it so well, it didn't surprise me when they decided to bring him back. It just didn't surprise me at all. It was nice, and it really was nice to have the other alternate version of Pete. Why don't the Reapers turn up in any of the multi-docs? I actually, that's something that I actually asked earlier. Again, it's what Doctor Who doesn't do very well, is to keep its universe consistent. Once you create a paradox, they should be there. Now, it does say in the earlier ones, and I'll say it again, in the older ones, the Doctor does express that the Time Lords would have sorted it out. But after the Time Lords have gone, there's no reason why they shouldn't. And again, they did a good thing to have. To have an extra threat there.
Yeah, it would have been something I'd have definitely brought back. I mean, they're not a bad idea to have consequences to messing about with time.
No, I mean it's they should have or after the Sonic on the Big Bang. I mean it's they did it plenty of times. Like I said, they could have had them in the Day of the Doctor.
I mean, with a lot of time travel stuff, if you take Back to the Future example, it's all cause and effect.
Yeah.
Whereas this has cause and effect, and something else a bit nastier as well.
But that's what I mean. Like the way that people fade out of existence in Back to the Future is that they fade out of existence. In this, they fade out of existence by getting devoured. The Doctor Who twist in this is that it's a monster that's killing you. Time has these monsters. So in things like Twice Upon a Time, these things should have been there. Or should have at least been part of the story.
Mind you saying that, these Reapers, they're more indiscriminate, aren't they, than a fading photograph of cause and effect. They seem to just be punching everybody.
Blanovich. I mean, there's... I mean, this is a lovely little make-up scene between the two. It's nice that he says, "Look, I wasn't going to run off and leave you." And see, this is Paul Cornell falling back onto one of his tropes, but this one doesn't work. How?
Carwin, just roll with it.
It does my nothing. This isn't even technobabble. He's about to attach a battery to a key. Oh God! it's really poor science fiction. See, I would have had that sky absolutely packed with them. Lovely soundtrack to 1987, I love, you know. I look at the top 100. The number I looked up earlier, the number one song in 1987 that outbeat everybody was the Bangles' "Walk Like an Egyptian."
It's not too bad.
No, mate, the soundtrack, you got U2, With or Without You.
Yeah, that's definitely a dip in quality, Carly.
Genesis, Land of Confusion.
Among the Living by Anthrax.
Yeah. Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody.
You're not winning me over.
Oh man, the big belters, Bee Gees.
Ricardo by Marillion. That's
What else? Bon Jovi, Living on a Prayer, and
Dead or Alive, I'd imagine.
Dead or Alive. Yeah, Dead or Alive. Yeah. Isn't he summoning the Tardis rather than reconstructing it? I don't know what he's doing. I don't know.
I think it's more. I think Ian probably more on the money there because he says it's still connected. I think it's more of a summons than a rebuild, as I remember. I'll comment on that when it turns up.
I don't understand how the explanation for the TARDIS exterior and the interior have broken off from each other, and how this damn thing is supposed to put them back together by plugging a battery into a key. I don't get it. It's really badly explained. There's all three. I tell you what I do like is the visual effect that's used for the car. Because if you look at it, it actually distorts before the car appears. It's like the space around gets stretched as the car pops into existence. It's a lovely effect. It's thought out, like. I don't like the fact that the car's following him. That's just stupid. Because if the car's following him, why isn't the car driving through the church right now? Why is he only confined to roads? Yeah, but you're bad at your job because it is her fault.
Well, that is a good face from the Doctor.
It doesn't make sense. Yeah, throw the baby. Something to do with the time vector generator problem. I haven't. God, terrible explanations. I'm not overly fond of this particular. I think that this design could be nice. It's just that I don't like this whole sunken underside part of it. I think if we streamlined it a little bit more, it would work a little bit better. That's okay, you still got a battery, just plug it back into the key again.
Catty Darwin.
I can't help it, it's crap. Considering how well it was done in Scream of the Sharker, it's done, again, it's falling back on exactly the same trope, but Scream of the Sharker at least said, look, you've got a piece of the TARDIS, you can reconstruct the TARDIS, because it's a ship. So you can reconstruct the inside from the outside. because it's always going to be connected. And then in here it's going, no, it's not. You know, essentially by having a piece of the TARDIS, you've essentially got a piece of the TARDIS's DNA. I'll give it this. The visual effects in this are far better than what they should be.
They're far better than I remember, to be honest with you.
It's little things like when he was attacking, what's his name? Is this Stephen? His father? There's little things that gouge the grass on the floor. Oh, and when he was on the church there, it's like scraping on the side of the walls and seeing bits of stone come off. Doesn't explain why they can't get back inside the church, mind. The other one got in, all right.
I say that again.
Hmm?
Would you say that about the other one got in all right? What?
Well, the other Reaper got in all right as soon as she made contact with the baby. But these now are stuck back outside again.
Yeah, just don't touch any more babies.
Good advice. But it just doesn't. It was vulnerable and now it's not.
Don't start on me. You're the one that says you chuck yourself for paradoxes.
Yes, exactly. Well, these things happen. Every time I touch myself, there's a paradox. This is I mean, again, not to push back on it again, but the characteristics that they've handed out in this episode to make Pete the hero of this and to center the episode around him. This relationship between the two, it's the most important part of this episode. This also draws up the whole thing of why doesn't Jackie remember?
Because no one remembers once they sort it out. They've already said that.
No, that's not how. Nothing gets undone here.
I thought she said to the doctor, once this all put right, has anyone going to remember this? And he said no.
I mean, I know we've passed the paradox now, aren't we?
Well, not until he's actually been walloped by the car.
Yeah, but something's wrong here because Pete doesn't die here. Pete's supposed to die just outside the polar state, and he doesn't. He dies outside the church. So his death has changed location now. So we'd already passed the paradox.
To be fair, dead is dead. I mean, the fact that he's alive is the paradox. As soon as he's brown bread again, everything's.
But he dies in a different place.
No, I'm going for brown breads and cushies here to fit in with a Del Boy thing. Don't ruin it for me.
Oh dear. You know, it all falls back into line. I get that. It's just the whole bit why people don't remember is a bit, you know.
Because everything from when he's originally supposed to die has been undone.
Ah, you think you're going to kill me? I'll show you. Oh. And like most Vauxhall drivers, when somebody runs out on the road, they keep their foot in the accelerator. There we go. I'll say the St. Paul's Church is a lovely looking church. It's a good location. Doesn't look like that now. That fence hasn't been painted in quite a while. I think they probably painted the fence for this episode. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't mind the Murray Gold music here. But again, I think I wish that it was a bit more period specific. Maybe the church is very near the Power Sit. Well, in terms of location, in Cardiff, it's almost directly across the river. And they said that she maybe needed to go on a diet because she had too many pies and. There we go. The so-called end of Pete Tyler.
Well, in this dimension, anyway.
And now the Tardis has moved because it's now in a different place than it was when it was somewhere else. It was originally at the bottom end of St. Fagin Street, and now it's at Paget Street. Why did you keep moving it around?
Fine, it's actually in southeast London, my man. Going on the programme.
That's the end of that. Press stop
That was
there.
actually better than I remembered, to be fair.
It's look again. The story is great. The relationships are good. The writing for the smaller characters is really, really well done. It's the science fiction that it just doesn't work for me. That's where I'm at with it.
Sometimes, though, with programs like Doctor Who, sometimes you've just got
But a little bit of consideration about as to how the science is supposed to work makes a massive difference to something like this. It's you can't just bull people into and it does it because it's magic. That's the difference between science fiction and fantasy, you know. But even fantasy has rules, so it's the fact that it doesn't obey rules here, and it's not that it's terrible in terms of story. The story is a great paradox story and a good one to tell. It's the science that falls on flat in its ass. It doesn't explain why the TARDIS gets separated from the interior from the exterior. It just says that it does. Doesn't explain how touching yourself through time it creates a paradox. It doesn't explain how the TARDIS is supposed to come back just by powering up a bloody key. It's just very loose with the science, and it doesn't have to be. You know, the paradox could say, oh well, the TARDIS can't enter a paradox, therefore that's why it's separate. It's small explanations like that. Not just the interior is thrown out. What the hell does that tell us? I mean, nothing at all. So, and these Reapers, these Reapers come from outside of time. They come through the void, and they're there to. They would normally not be there if the Time Lords existed, because the Time Lords would have taken care of them. Whereas, they come to, as they say, come to sterilize the wound, as it were. But again, a good creature that's just not been used since. And it's just insane.
Yeah, they do tend to throw a lot away in Doctor Who, don't they?
So disposable. Like I said, even smaller things like again the crystal white cider. It's a product that they had to create because it doesn't exist. Because you can't use. It's a BBC made show. Therefore, you can't endorse products.
So yeah, that would have been what? That would have been diamond white, wouldn't it?
Well, diamond white, or it would have been white lightning or something like that. It'd be, but because they can't endorse those products, they've got to make. So they've got a product now that could have been layered and throughout Doctor Who, just even for parties, what are you drinking, or crystal white cider. It's something that's, and again, it's something that the animated stuff has done very well by bringing in like Magpie Electronics and things like that into the animated Doctor Who. Why? I mean, you've already created all this stuff. If you go into the BBC archive for Doctor Who since 2005, there's all this stuff in files, just mountains of it. The storeroom must be absolutely max. They don't throw the stuff away. And all the filing systems for these sort of things that have been created for the show, they just put it in a file. And maybe we'll use it again, but we won't. I mean, it's just bizarre. So I want to show you a couple of things first. Let me just get this.
Well, I've just opened up my tablet screen that's got all my stuff about this on there, and I've just got a notification come up that apparently you went live an hour ago, mate.
Yeah, I did. You'd be surprised. So the first thing I'm going to show you here. So look, I'm going to screen share. Application window, this one. And I'll share this like that. That is young Rose today.
I'll tell you what, they picked a good baby because she doesn't look that dissimilar to Billie Piper at the time.
Yeah, that's Julia Joyce. She's 22, and that's young Rose Tyler. So like I said, it's shocking that young Rose Tyler is now older than old Rose Tyler was when she was supposed to be young Rose Tyler. It's confusing. So there's that. I want to just what can I show you here as well? So I mean, like, which way do I go with this? I don't know what I've done now. I think I've closed the wrong one, have I? Yes. So let me close that.
Did you notice the Bad Wolf reference in this one?
Possibly.
Well, I totally missed it, but it was an Energized poster advertising an upcoming concert on the 20th of November as the words "Bad Wolf" written across a smiley face.
Yes. It's on the center where it's on the center where the Tardis is parked in Bad Wolf. There's a lot of graffiti in that area of Cardiff anyway, so it's difficult to notice anyway. So yeah, I want to point. Take a look at this. Screen share. Let's do this again. So this is the design for the Reaper, and I think it's fairly successful. I think it's a fairly successful design. I mean, there's absolutely nobody screaming there in absolute blatant horror for some unknown reason. But ignoring that, this part here around the back end of the creature is where I think it just falls down in the design. This needs to be. I'm okay with this sort of part, like a sort of a like a toad's sort of sack under the jaw. It's this part here is where, like, this needs to be longer or just more streamed out. There's no I know it's just too. I don't know what the word I'm looking for here is. It's kind of like you've taken the arse end of a dragon and just cut it off. Do you know what I mean? It's been cut off. There's no. It needs to be sort of smoothed up a little bit. I think it's a bit too flat-fronted. Also, you'd expect. I know they're trying to go for a weird and interdimensional here with having the mouth down here, but if the mouth is there, why is the head up here, and why is this like? It's just. I know they're going for bizarre, but there's creative bizarre, and they're just doing it because it's weird. So a little bit of tweaking with this design, and you'd end up with something that's probably a lot more successful. It still looks good. I'm not going to pick too hard on this because at least it was going outside the box.
And where did they get the name Reapers from? Because that's not mentioned on screen at all.
So they were called Reapers by the effects department.
Right, gotcha.
And if you look, they actually got scythes for tails.
Yeah.
So they actually that's pretty much what. Now also, right, we were talking earlier. So let me just what have we done here? Right. So yeah, let me just pull this up. And this is what I was talking about earlier. So the inside of the Tardis. So to build this is actually built out of 2 Tardises. And this was constructed 3 times. So the first time was the 3/4 view that you see in the street when he's walking down towards it. And that was the outside of the Tardis. Then they took it down and rebuilt it with all the walls facing inward. So you can't see because they've all been turned around. So you've now got all the outside facing walls facing inwards. But the reason why it was made out of 2 Tardises is because of this back wall here. Because there is no back wall to the Tardis. This back wall is normally a translite, which has the interior printed on it. So you never see the back wall of the Tardis. It's normally up against something, or they don't shoot it from that angle. You hardly ever see the back of the Tardis. And if you do, you won't see the interior. You just see somebody step out of it. You won't see the inside. So they've taken 2 Tardises, the A Tardis and the B Tardis. They've taken the doors off the A Tardis and put them on the B Tardis, and then taken one of the back walls or one of the side walls and made it the back. Because normally that would be, you'd have the windows there and the rest would just be black. So but then they also had to take it down again, and I'll show you why. And that's because of this shot. Let's open this up. There we go. This shot here. And this is the 3rd reconstruction of the TARDIS. And that's because they had to take the back wall off to shoot this shot here. So the camera could be outside the TARDIS, looking through the TARDIS. So it's built like a tunnel.
I'll tell you what, something else I've noticed, just totally aside from that, over his shoulder, that Rover P6 was in a lot of shots in that episode.
Yeah.
I noticed them. My dad had one of them in the 80s, so
it was behind the car when they were driving down Clive Street. It was. I mean, they had a couple of cars to use. They had a Fiesta. They had 1 or 2. They just got dotted around. The Fiesta shows up in 2 different places. But yeah, so this is the 3rd reconstruction of the TARDIS. Now, seeing that, when we were talking about them driving down the street, I'm just going to show you something here. So this is this is what they call it's what they call an insert process trailer, and this is used for doing these sort of street shots. And how this works is that you've got the trailer here, you take the sign on there, the car drives on to the trailer, as you would imagine here, and this hooks onto the tow hitch, truck, whatever. And you've got a place here to put the cameras, you've got a place here to put, you can put dolly track on this if you want to, and dolly a camera up and down, and it's quite wide. And that's what they use. But that's what they use in America. The British version is not so glamorous. The British version is basically an auto trailer, and they shoot it up the back of a Range Rover. That's why in the episode there are no side views when they're driving down the street. You know, as you said, you've got that Rover behind them. There's no side views. It's only A camera, B camera, looking through the windscreen, and that's simply because it's literally just being towed down the street on a trailer, and they're just shooting out the back of a Range Rover. that there is something that the BBC. It works. I think it works more for America because they've got wider roads than Cardiff. You can afford to have these staged platforms either side. Whereas in the UK, this would not go down a road. It's wider than a bus. Because if you can imagine, you've got a car on there. The car fits into that groove that you can see in the middle, and then you've got these stage platform all around it. So you've got an extra 5 feet either side. Oh, well, not 5 feet, but 3 feet either side. So it's about an extra 6 foot of width on there with the car on it as well. So, but the UK version is more like it's kind of more like somebody just towing your car away.
Yeah.
But that's how they do that shot, and it's sometimes there's an advantage to it because you can actually do a crane cam shot, which you can't do on a trailer like that, which is great. But the other thing as well is the church. So this is just to give you some idea of what we're looking at here. It's a cracking location because the interior of that church just looks fabulous. It's everything that you want from a location, really.
It is. I mean, if it looks that good in and out, why use two locations for definite?
Oh, absolutely. And again, like you would normally think that they would, but if you look at the outside of the church, have I got the outside here? Let's scroll through what have we got here. There's the trailer. Doctor, there you go. There's the church. I mean, it's a lovely sort of Gothic style church. It's got these double spires on it. It's very, very, yeah. How can I put it? It's very sort of church looking. I know it is a church, but I mean, it's got that sort of Gothic style church to it. So it's quite pretty to look at, without having to. Let me go back further. There's Julia, and so there's the church in the episode with all the Reapers. I can't keep bragging on it, but it's one of those things.
You know why that is like that?
Yeah, budget.
Social distancing, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, but, while I remember something now, I'm going to stop your flow for a second, I'll forget. We was talking about scoring this and not being a very time period score.
Yep.
For me, this episode suffers with what I call Grease syndrome. Now, the film Grease, Grease, I know it's traditionally more of a girly film, if you want to put it that way. It's a love story, blah, 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 blah. I've always said that there's nothing wrong with the music in Grease at all, the songs, the tunes, the words and that. How much better would it have been if instead of having a late 70s disco soundtrack that actually used the same songs but given them a 1950s rock and roll soundtrack? They could have used the same songs, just the different style of music. And this is what this suffers from. If they'd have had a bit more 80s music thrown in, rather than...
It's just got the fact that it's not a period specific sound score for the episode. It's got a modern sound score to a 1980s period show. It does have, you've got a bit of Rick Astley thrown in there for some musical score, and I got my mother constantly trying to contact me while I'm on streaming.
Do you not tell people you're streaming?
I do, but she doesn't understand. I've tried telling her before. She doesn't get it. She doesn't understand social distancing or none of it. She doesn't, honestly. It goes right over her head. So I'm going to put that in my pocket so it doesn't make any more noise. No, honestly, she doesn't get it. She doesn't understand what essential she thought essential shopping was, can you go down the shop and get me mealworms for the bird feeder? And it was like, that's not essential, ma'am. She said, it is for the birds. It was like, oh God. She really doesn't get it. She just doesn't. So let me just swap this over here. So I'm gonna show you something now. which is to do with how they filmed this episode. So again, going back to filming this episode, you can't get this in Blu-ray in 1080p because they didn't film it in 1080p. They didn't have those cameras at the time. They were using the AJHD C27 cameras, and they hadn't upgraded because they didn't exist at the time. 4K digital cameras for broadcast didn't exist at the time, so it's not one of those things. But also when they were filming this, they shot it over 2 small areas, and I'm gonna show you this right now.
While that's loading, just want to respond to Ian. That is a good conspiracy theory, mate.
Isn't Christopher moments of Stanley Bremen? Yeah, I've heard it before that she's actually killed. She actually killed. What's his name? Danny. That he actually drowned in the summer, and she actually drowned with him because every time she pictures him, he's always underwater. You know that you know the song she does. But now there's nowhere to hide when it took my love aside. Do anything hopelessly devoted to. She's always picturing him underwater. And there's obviously the angel with the scenes from with Frenchie and stuff like that. And the car flies to heaven at the end. So yeah, yeah. I mean, how many? Aside from Chitty Bang Bang, how many cars can fly? So yeah, so here's Cardiff, just so you can see this. Am I in 3D? No. Let's go to 3D. Oh, that's taxing. Oof. So yeah, this is where the first part of the episode is filmed. This is Loudon Estate, Loudon Square, I mean. And if I drop this on here, it should hopefully go on, do it. Doesn't like it. It really doesn't like it. Oh. No, it's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna do it.
It's getting there slowly.
I don't. I think. Oh, wait a minute. What's going on here? So let me just drop this here. Just go on. There we go. There we go. So this is the start of the episode. This is where Rose and the Doctor meet up with Rose and the Doctor. So that's where Chris and Billy are, and obviously right here is where the original pair were.
That's a perfect shot.
And of course, in Partner the Ways, yeah, in Partner the Ways, this is where the Tardis is, and this is where the big yellow van is. So when you see the Powell Estate, now there are 3 Powell Estates. The actual Powell Estate itself is a street in London. There's this Powell Estate here, which is supposed to be at the back of the Powell Estate, which is looking at Rose's apartments. Which is sure. The other Powell Estate is where the stairwells are. You'd have thought they would just use these stairwells, but no. Those stairwells are in a different apartment block across the city. There's also the same stairwells that Clara uses in Time of the Doctor, where she's running down the stairs to meet the Doctor as well. It's bizarre the choice that they made. Why they would go with extra stairwells when there's clearly some in this building. I can see them. But yeah, this is where Pete originally gets knocked over. It's right there. Well, that's where he gets knocked over originally. The X marks the spot.
Looks like the same car park there still.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I mean it's Cardiff. It's bound to be the same cars from the 80s. Yeah, but that's no paddle steamer calf. So there's that. So just to show you where. Oh God. Let's go back to 2D. 3D can't handle it. Let's swap this back around. Back north, so you can see it. So that's where that's where the original filming started, and then they came over to here, and it's literally right here is where the church is. And if I go like this, I should drop it outside the church. And wait for the image to clear up. There it is. And all the rest of it is done in and around this area, because if you come down the bottom end of this street here, if I actually just exit this up here. So there's the church, and this is where the Tardis interior, exterior bit is done, which is literally the bottom end of the street. So it's, if I drop this here, it'll eventually do it at some point. Go on, you can do it. Do it, do it, do it.
Is that a bowling green behind there?
So this is at the bottom end of St. Fagin Street is Grange Gardens, where all the parks and everything are for this area. But there, that's literally where the Tardis was. I don't know if it can come further down. I don't think it can. It's pretty much the end of the street. So, but yeah, by that tree, that's where the Tardis was built, just stuck next to that sign. They changed the name of the sign from St. Fagin Street to something. What was it? I can't remember what the name of it was. And the other thing was that. Yeah. And the other thing was the park which Mickey was playing in. Young Mickey is this park here. So he was playing in this park. That's where the Reapers start attacking, which is opposite St. Patrick's Church, which is like literally there's St. Paul's, there's St. Patrick's. So it's all within. The entire episode was shot within this entire area, and if you look at where the end of the episode takes place, drop that there. So once again, Pete's death spot, X marks the spot. That's where he died. But this then is where the TARDIS was at the end. Now this has been changed, because I think if I zoom in here, you'll see that that shop is now gone. It didn't like the click of an image, and this Indian is now Chinese, and this is where the TARDIS was at the end, right where the arrow is. But all these shops are now flats. There's only the Chinese, which was an Indian. If I go back one, was it back one or back two? It's good how Google don't update their images. What have I done? I don't know. Yeah. So that's how it was before. I don't even know what that is. I think that was a garage. I think dealing tires. But yeah, it's all been apartmentized now. So all the shops are gone. But there we are. So that's pretty much how they filmed that episode, and that's what I mean. Where the I know where a Silurian male voice choir. Yeah, well, so. Oh, okay. So, Silurian Park is literally opposite Loudon Square. So it's all in the same. I'll try to pull it back up. Yeah, so we got Silurian Park, which is. So let me just show you how. This is what I mean by. This is why I take issue with them filming all over South Africa when they haven't filmed all over Cardiff. And most of the time, when they film a Doctor Who episode in Cardiff, it's normally all shot around the same couple of streets.
Well, it was all on one block, wasn't it? Apart from like the Palace State Park, no?
Yeah, the Paula State area was the only part that was not on the same street. But I'll just show you this, as just for oh god, I've got to separate that from there. Thank you. pull this up. Go back to screen share, application window, and here we go. So what we're looking at here now is where am I looking? So this is Loudon Estate. Silurian Park is right there. Now what you're looking at is it's pretty much onto Boot Street, and Boot Street here and Boot Street train station is the Old Bay train station. But just to give you some idea of where everything is in context, is that if you come out of Loudon, go down Boot Street to the bottom, you end up by Roald Plaza, which is Torchwood. And just to let you know how things are in this place, how tied to Doctor Who this place is, there is a place at Roald Plaza called Ianto's Shrine. It's an actual place, and it's a shrine to the death of Ianto Jones from Torchwood.
Right,
And it's on the bay. If you come down here, so this is where you can see the path coming out here now. So this is where the waterfall is, and where it is in Boomtown. And you come down here, go round this corner, and this is the area here where, you know, where Gwen tracks Ianto, and he's in that little shop inside there. Oh, there it says there, Ianto Shrine. It's literally right there. So that's the official entrance to Torchwood. And if you put, I don't know if you can, put that on there. Might do it. Might take my computer a while. I put the kettle on, make a cup of coffee while we're waiting. Aha! So I turn this around. There's Ianto's Shrine. You couldn't make it up. But that's the official entrance to Torchwood. If you want to know where the stone is, if I come up here. Now, because of health and safety, you couldn't make this up, I swear to you. So you come up here, and this is where everything. There's the water tower, right?
Yep.
Outside of in Roald Plaza, opposite the Millennium Centre. Now, because of health and safety says that people don't know how to step on and step off a curb. And in wake of that, the council has now decided to put bloody railings up. Now, I can't. My brain just won't hack it. So if I drop this in here, they've railed it all off because there's a bloody curb. All this was open. But because of this step, and people might fall over, I mean, if you fall off there and hurt yourself, you deserve it.
Trouble is, mate, the amount of people that sue councils and stuff like that, you kind of can see why they did it. They're stupid.
But I mean, no, because there's not. But that's not. I would actually disagree with that, because I would say if you're going to fall over and you sue the council because you fell over, they should make you a laughing stock and make you walk the streets saying, "Look what I did."
Well, you and
I'd be embarrassed. I would honestly, they would get me into court, and I would just be like, "No, here's a big neon sign. Go walk down the street carrying that, you tit." Sue. Honestly, some people just cook my head. And if you are interested in Torchwood, and there's the water tower there, and if you are visiting Cardiff at any point and you want to stand on the stone that is the entrance to Torchwood, it is that stone there. is the one. There's a broken bit of stone this side. There's a broken bit of stone that side. There's a stone in the middle, and that's the stepping stone to stand on. It is slap bang in the middle of the water tower. And there it is. At least they had the sense, because they knew people were coming to Cardiff into the plaza and having the photographs on that step. At least they had the common sense not to fence off that step.
Anyway.
But yeah, and that's obviously you couldn't put the TARDIS there now because it's fenced off. Dear God, and obviously just to give you some other things as well, inside there is where they've shot the hospital for New Earth as well. So it's all in one area. And there we are. But the stupid people are they making president? I mean, yeah, it just bugs me. That sort of thing bugs me. The fact that you can't make something nice without having to have it fenced off because of morons. Just bugs me. But anyway, I really don't know what else to say about Father's Day, unless you've got anything else to add.
I have. We haven't spoken about the Blinovich limitation effect yet.
Oh, go on.
Well, if you remember in Mordrin Undead,
Yes.
the 1977 and 83 versions of The Brig, so Alistair Lethbridge Stewart, there was a cataclysmic release of energy when they touched each other. So, although it didn't call up a Reaper, as I remember.
Yes, but this is my point. You're not intruding on the same space. So if let me just call up the. Okay. So I can understand not having two objects occupy the same space at the same time. So we're talking about the Blinovich limitation effect is a fictional principle of time physics in Universal, the long-running science fiction series Doctor Who. Rather, it's a physical effect that occurs when two versions of the same person from different time periods make physical contact. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I can understand if... No, I can't understand it.
Well, the point I was going to make is that in Father's Day, the reason that it became dangerous and the Reapers turned up from the paradox is because of the Time Lords. Mm-hmm. But the Time Lords weren't controlling that. So why would that make a Reaper appear in the church? That's the point I was trying to make.
I know, but why would that also then stop the other Reapers from being able to get in? I mean, it just... This is what I mean. It's being fast and loose with the rules, and the rules it's making don't apply them to themselves. So I can imagine. If you have made this rule that if you are from the same person from two different times and you touch, then if that's the case, then the Doctor can't interact with the Doctor. And if anytime the Doctor has interacted with the Doctor, this should happen. So the Blinovich limitation effect only makes sense in the fact that you apply it as a rule to every single occasion.
Yeah.
And because they don't, it's a nonsense rule.
Well, yeah, it is. I'm not sticking up for it. I was just I noticed that there was another occurrence of it in Doctor Who. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm saying, because the way they could get around it with being no Reapers in the Brig done it was because the Time Lords were still about.
Yeah, but I mean, like that, when the Brig didn't the Brig actually win the situation by touching himself?
Oh, I think so. It's been a while since we watched. Did we do Mordrin Undead?
Yeah, I think we have. I think we have. That's one where he's faking it as the Doctor, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Here's the interesting thing about Mordrin Undead. It's the first time that... So people are talking about the Doctor having difficulty becoming a woman. In Mordrin Undead, it's revealed that Time Lords can become other things other than just human. Because it's actually known... Because in that episode, Mordrin is pretending to be the Doctor. And it is revealed in that episode that Time Lords could become other species, not just look human. So, I mean, that's what we know. I know Mordrin was lying about it, but it is actually it is brought up as a physical possibility. Because he has that spaghetti head, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Which it's not the best of makeups. But yeah, I mean, again, the problem with that episode, Father's Day, the writing is good, the story is good, the character writing on every level is good. The science fiction is bollocks, and it's a shame because it's the only really one of the only episodes that actually does deal with the time paradox. And I've given it's been on for like 56, 57 years now. It's amazing that it doesn't deal with it more often.
Yeah, I suppose I had to tread careful with a paradox to not use ideas from Back to the Future. I mean, it would have been quite interesting if
they've done it a couple of times whereby they've done like sort of a Back to the Future-esque story with like the grandfather paradox or the bootstrap paradox and stuff like that. But they've also actually pointed out, well, you can't do that from Back to the Future. You know, they've actually pointed out in the story, like, you know, think Back to the Future, but think Back to the Future is wrong. So they have actually done it, and you know, they've made references to other things as well from other, you know, stories as to why. But usually, I would say that the problem with it is the fact that they've already got a device in the story that allows them to travel through time, which is the Tardis. There's nothing in this story. There's no MacGuffin, there's no thing that is allowing these things to happen. For example, Mask of Mandragora, they have the Mandragora crystal and things like that. Or the, what's it called? Oh, God. Oh, the blue crystal, man. I'm trying to think what it's called. Oh, never mind, it's gone. But anyway, there's normally a thing that is the central focal point that allows you to say, right, well, if we do this, this is the switch. This is the switch on, must be the switch off. There is no switch off in this. The switch off in this is Pete Tyler's death. And because everything's around that, like, it would have been so simple for Pete to have worked it out, got in the car and driven back to the Powell estate. And it would have made sense that you know, Rose doesn't want him to do it, and Rose would want to be, but no, they've got this whole thing whereby the car is just following him around, and it's just like, this is silly. You've taken a good scientific principle and a good story structure and a good thing, and then you put this pants around it, and it could have been so much better. And my problem, again, this is why I can take and leave this episode. Out of all the episodes in season 1, this is the one I can take and leave, and that's because the things that it does incredibly well, like the character development, just the character between those two, the bride and the groom. The bride and the groom of the Doctor is a wonderful, wonderful scene. Christopher Eccleston is acting his butt off in that scene. And it's just, you can see how damaged he is when he's like, oh, you know, you met 2 o'clock in the morning and, you know, cab home, and it's a life I can't have. And in that moment, you see the sort of almost the pain in the guy. You know, the pain of the Doctor, like of being. I used to have that. I remember having that, and now I can't. It doesn't exist for me. So there's lots of beautiful things like that in it. Absolutely, just splashed throughout there, and it's only when everybody. I'll tell you. I'll say this, which is great about this episode. When it rounds up, it's gone from people being argumentative to everybody being on the same page. Because even Jackie towards the end is saying goodbye to Pete. You know, they've all stopped arguing, they've all stopped bickering, they've all stopped being turned against each other, and they're now all facing in the same direction. Even though it kills the Doctor and he doesn't know what to do. You know, it's never mentioned again. I wonder if Rose ever mentioned. I can imagine that conversation. Remember when you died? No. Well, you did. You were eaten. So, but yeah, for Paul Cornell, he's borrowing other elements from previous stories that he's written. The ideas aren't executed as well, and maybe it's a time limitation effect. Maybe that they've just got to get through it to get the story done, to get it wrapped up in 45 minutes. But for me, this is the less successful episode of Doctor Who from Series 1. I would still give it a 7.5 out of 10. That's not a bad score, you know. But even the worst written episodes are more fun, and this is not as fun an episode. That's what I think. Anyway, where are you at with this episode?
Well, I can't really argue with your points, mate. To be honest, I mean, it was a lot better than I remembered. Like I say, I think I may have only even watched that one originally when it was on. So it really didn't have an impact on me. The bit with the car following him around wasn't as bad as I remembered. In my head, it was literally, apart from going in the church, it was everywhere. But it weren't. It was just driving around that same bit like a ghost car. So that, even though it was silly, and you're right, you should have gone back to the Palace Estate and got run over where he got run over. That wasn't as bad as I thought, but yeah, I can't argue with the points you've raised about the science. I mean, I'd forgotten all about the battery and the key. I'd totally forgotten about the key. I'd totally forgotten about the TARDIS being rebuilt until you mentioned it. That's how little impact this episode had on me. But on a rewatch, I'd agree. It is a 7.5 out of 10 for that. It's largely made up by the quality of the acting in it. Even at the silliest parts of techno-babble rubbish science,
yeah,
they're still acting around it to kind of make it believable.
Maybe Saturday Night 2005 audiences weren't ready for heavier science fiction. Do you know? I think they were. I think that what they were trying to do was not get held up on the minutiae of the science fiction. That's what I would say. I mean, look, there are plenty of shows that do it, right? One of my favorite shows right now in science fiction is Lost in Space on Netflix. It's 2 seasons in, right? It's potentially the worst sci-fi show I've ever seen. It's horrendous, and in that, it's also brilliant. Because there's things that happen in Lost in Space that you just know are just like, oh my god, that is terrible. But you go over there because you've got 2 choices. You can either go over there or switch it off. There's no middle ground. There's this, like, just to give you an example, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Lost in Space. So there's this episode in Lost in Space whereby they have to get water, and these Jupiters have crashed, and it's like, right then, the only Jupiter we know of that has water, there's only one. Like, well, of course there is. There's only one. All right, and we have to go get the water. It's like, right, fine, okay. Where is it? Well, that Jupiter's crashed in that cliff up there, way off into the distance. And you're like, well, of course it did. It couldn't have possibly have crashed with all the other Jupiters. It must have crashed into that mountain. And then they get this the chariot, and they get this trailer and they put on the back of the chariot, and they go up the mountain to this Jupiter which has the water, and it's teetering on the edge. Well, of course it's teetering on the edge. Why wouldn't it be teetering on the edge? It's bound to be. You know what's coming.
Well, they're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off, apparently.
So they finally get there, right? And this trailer they've got on the back of the chariot is about half the size of a caravan, right? It's a small trailer. So they take this hose now, and this hose is like this, right? So they take this, they plug it into the Jupiter, they plug it in there, they lock it on, they pull this lever, and it goes poof, there we go. And they fill up with water. Yeah, all right. How long is it going to take? 6 hours? 6 hours? What? You'd be quicker filling it with a bucket. It's only a tiny. This trailer's tiny, small trailer. 6 hours. He filled it with a straw. I mean, if you know it's on the edge of the cliff, you know what's going to happen. I don't have to tell you what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. And
I haven't seen it. I know what's going to happen.
There's a storm coming in. Well, of course there's a storm coming in. Why wouldn't there be a storm coming in? Oh, God. And then, I mean, and that's the way he does it. You know, that's the way the series is. It's a terrible science fiction show, but it is so much fun to watch. It's possibly my favorite sci-fi show on TV right now. And because it's crap. And like this episode is similar to that in that it doesn't bog itself down in the minutiae of it. The problem is that it's not that fun. It's spending too much time with the back and forth of the characters and building and doing character development because it is structured around Pete.
Yeah, I think a point Ian's just made was science fiction TV popular in 2004 to 5. I think when they relaunched Doctor Who, they were aiming for a family show as opposed to a hardcore science fiction show. So a lot of the science in it is going to be a bit flaky.
I mean, 2004, 2005, you're talking Battlestar Galactica, Firefly, Enterprise. That's probably so yeah. What else is around? Oh, good grief! I mean, what was the Jim Henson one? Farscape. So,
I don't know, Farscape finished by then.
Possibly. No, I don't think so. No.
SG1 might have still been going.
SG1, Stargate Atlantis. Stargate Atlantis was just starting, I think. I love Atlantis. What a show. Brilliant show. Love it.
You know, I found that one very difficult to get into, but I love SG1. I've got a whole lot of it today.
So I did find it difficult to get into, and what I found was that it was that I found it easy to get into from season 3. But once I got into it from season 3, I had to go back and watch season 1 and 2. So, but then it was just like, and I think like after people like Robert Picardo and things like that come into it, it just makes the show so much better. But I mean, yeah, I mean, there was a lot of good sci-fi. I mean, we talking. This is sort of in the wake of things like Deep Space Nine, Babylon 5. These are all finished now. You know, Voyager's just come to a finish. What other sci-fis out there? I mean, I don't know whether I don't think you can call Buffy the Vampire Slayer sci-fi. I suppose technically it is. Smallville was just on the air. Smallville had been on for 2 years, 3 years. So sci-fi wasn't doing bad. It wasn't struggling in any way. So 2004, 2005. I mean, sci-fi was doing okay. There was some. Let's have a look at. Let's actually Google it.
To be fair, I mean, sci-fi has been pretty popular since the 50s, isn't it?
Yeah. Science fiction in the 2000s. Let's have a look. Yeah. Let's go back before. So Primer, 2004. Donnie Darko. Anything before that? The Chronicles of Riddick, Equilibrium, the film boys. Yeah, I mean, TV. Let's have a look at TV sci-fi. So yeah, Battlestar Galactica, Stargate SG-1, Firefly, Farscape, X-Files, Enterprise, Stargate Atlantis, Lex, Stargate Universe. Oh, Stargate Universe is terrible show. 2009 that was. Yeah, Andromeda. The 4400. The Threshold. We're missing one. Fringe 2008. Sure. wasn't keen on Fringe. I tried to get into Fringe, but yeah, it wasn't for me. So yeah, it was just the fact that I think that what all they were doing was that they were just not getting bogged down by the technical aspect of it, and just went, well, I'll go with it. That would be my explanation for Father's Day. And now this is the part of the show where we say next week we are doing The Empty Child and The Doctor Dances in 1 week.
Oh yeah.
Yes. All American shows though. Well, no, Farscape wasn't. Farscape was Australian, and Lex wasn't it?
Yeah, Lex won. And then the end of SG1 became Fargate anyway.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't because Xena, Warrior Princess, that's an Australian show, wasn't it? And that it was the same people that made Hercules and oh god, I don't know. We're dealing with myth here, but I'm pretty sure they were Lex was the same production crew. If I'm right on that, I'd have to check on that. So, British sci-fi shows. I mean, we talked about this last week with when my son was on. Oh, not last week, week before, where we were doing shows like Bugs and Spooks and stuff like that, which was more of a earthbound science fiction. But yeah, so next week we're doing The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances, where we get introduced to a certain Mr. Jack Harkness, not to be confused with Captain Jack Harkaway from the second Doctor stories.
Or Captain Jack Sparrow from a completely different thing.
Well, I mean, I think, if I remember rightly, that he was supposed to be Harkaway, but he didn't like the name. He felt the name should be stronger, so he changed it to Harkness. And because obviously Harkaway was supposed to be this, I don't know, this like fictional sort of, not fictional character, but this other character. And I think that's what he wanted, and he just decided to change it because the name didn't sound strong enough. So, but that's for next week. And yeah, we get introduced to John Barrowman, who's probably the single most successful character to come out of Doctor Who since Lethbridge Stewart.
He's definitely my favourite.
I mean, let's talk about it quickly, while we've got time. We've got a couple of minutes left. Where would you put him as popular as a character? Out of all the companions, out of all the Doctor Who companions, where would you put him?
Well,
because I'm putting him pretty high on the list.
He is pretty high on the list. I mean, he's if you're going companions wise, for me personally, you've got pretty much most of the Fourth Doctor stuff. well, early. So you got sort of like for me, the best companion for Doctor Who will always be Sarah Jane Smith. That unless something happens in the future, I can't see that changing. I love Elizabeth Sladen to bits. She's so good in Doctor Who, in as much as she's clever and looks so innocent. But we're getting off the track now anyway. He's definitely in the top 10, I think, because you got iconic characters. You've got Jamie. I mean, Rose has become an iconic character.
So this is what I was going to say. I mean, if you're talking about the dynamic between the Doctor and a companion, then I definitely put Jamie at the top, because the dynamic between the Doctor and Jamie defines the second Doctor period. You know, people forget about Ben and Polly. You know, those two characters, even though they were there from the time he regenerated, they leave in the Faceless Ones. But even then, it's Jamie and the Doctor, and he's there right away until the Doctor regenerates at the end of that. So for them and their relationship, the way they bounce off each other is amazing chemistry. They're brilliantly funny. They improv a lot of stuff together. It's just Fraser Hines and Patrick Troughton, just amazing chemistry together. But I think if you look at the popular character that was a companion, I mean, this guy not only got his spin-off show from Doctor Who, but I mean, I would say he rocketed John Barrowman's career. I don't think John Barrowman would disagree with that either. I think
No,
it threw him into the forefront of where he is today, and that's why I think he loves the character and keeps coming back for it. And I mean, we'll be talking about the fact that he's come back again, and he's probably the highlight of Series 12 in the short amount of time.
Before we get off of Jamie, didn't one of the Jamie's actors pass away recently? The guy that played him for one story when Fraser Hines
in the main drama, yeah.
He
so
passed away recently, I believe.
Possibly, yeah. Speaking of that as well, and you did mention Sarah Jane. I should point this out as well. Sarah Jane is coming back for a new Doctor Who adventure, and it's being played by Elizabeth Sladen's daughter.
That's a big Finnish one, though, isn't it?
It is a big Finnish one, yes, but it's worth pointing that out. That because it's a lovely thing to do, to have Tom Baker with Liz Sladen's daughter playing Sarah Jane Smith. So yeah, but we are talking about companions here. So and I think that with, I tell you what I like with Captain Jack is that Captain Jack is this. He's Han Solo for Doctor Who.
Yeah,
I'm not sure who Chewbacca, but he is definitely Han Solo. He's this brash smuggler type that's becomes changed by the Doctor, by interacting with the Doctor. This is what happens if Han Solo meets the Doctor and how he changes. And that's who Captain Jack is. A very hypersexualized version, no doubt, but
he's got all the charisma.
Yeah, definitely.
All of the
Anyway,
charisma.
I think we're going to call that quits there. That was Doctor Who Father's Day, an episode which, again, out of Series 1, it's the one I can give or take. It's lovely to watch. It is lovely. Just because I'm saying this does not mean to say that I think it's bad. I don't think it's bad. But out of 10, it's a 7 to 7.5. I'd probably go with a 7.5 for all the character stuff. I've got to take points off for the stuff I think which is crap. And I'm going to. I will say this before we wrap up. I know we were pointing out the fact that I said that I know you agree with this, that it's the costume and period stuff that is done well that is what the BBC are good at with Doctor Who. So let's point this out to you. Linda Davy Jones, Claire Pritchard were the makeup. Luinda Wright was the costumer, and sound as well, because I thought the sound was amazing for this. Was Doug Sinclair, who was the sound designer, and he came up with the vulture-y sounds for the Reapers and all the grinding and the cracking and the sound that the Tardis key makes and stuff like that. Even though I don't like the concept, that's where this episode was built. Was in the hair, the makeup, the costumes, the sound. It was just fabulously done.
Yeah,
so it's worth pointing out.
Give them a collective hat tip off it because they done really well. It looked the part.
So Ian says, I prefer this to the long game. I prefer the story, but the long game has better principles and abides by stronger rules, and is a little bit more of a run-around romp. Whereas this is kind of a lot of people stuck in a church. So make of that what you will.
Well, that's it. I mean, like anything, it's subjective. We're not right. You're not wrong. You know, and vice versa.
Of course, look, it's great that he prefers this to the long. It's fantastic, but I don't really prefer. I prefer the long game for what it is, which is just a much more of a romp. We are past the hump here. We've done Dalek. We've done the long game, and now they've done this, which is probably the last bottle episode before on the ramp. No, we've got Boomtown as well. So Boomtown is because this was recorded at the same time as they done Dalek. It's the same director, and it was recorded all at the same time. This was all recorded in the same block. Dalek was finished wrapping on October 24th. The exterior shots here were done on November 11th. It's all shot in the same, same couple of weeks, like. But we passed the hump now of that spike. Know your personal opinion is wrong.
Carwin's told me I'm not allowed to swear, Ian, but I'm thinking it, and it ends with off.
No, it's just the fact that this was very much like in the way they done the long game, like we talked about last week. The long game was a bottle episode because it was nothing but sets. It was nothing but, and with the same sets used over and over and over. This was another bottle episode, but this was a bottle episode based on location. Because it didn't have sets, because at this moment in time, they're now building sets for the next few episodes. So what's happening now is that all the sets that they had are being flat packed and packed away. And they can't really go back to the studio now because they've still got all the sets there for Partner of the Ways. So there's nowhere. There's really only a few places they can film. So now they bottle episode in there by filming in one location, which is St. Paul's Church. So, but again, it's a money saving method because now they're building up to, you know where the money's going now because you know what's coming next. You've got the Empty Child, Dr. Dances, Boomtown, and then you're the Bad Wolf and Partner of the Ways. I'm not missing one there, am I?
No.
Yeah, exactly. So Boomtown's another money saver because it's literally one person, which is Blomfeld Foch, and the usual cast. But yeah, no. So the big ones now are the next one is the big one, the next big effects one, with all the World War II stuff, the digital map paintings and everything. And then the final one then is with all the Dalek ships, the hundreds of Daleks everywhere, the Supreme Dalek, the Dalek God, as it were. I mean, there's a lot of effects going on right now. At this point, when they're making this episode, there's a lot of shit already. Damn it! There's a lot of stuff happening. It was me. Yes, it was I. But there's a lot of stuff happening now. So there's this one is another money saver, and we passed that hump now because we've got one more money saver, which is again shot in Cardiff, and they actually use Cardiff. It's the first time Roald Dahl Plaza gets mentioned in Doctor Who, and that's really it. All the rest of it is all they start spending money now. They start. This is where all the money savings have been. All these money saving techniques are going. So. Yeah, I'm going to leave that there. That's us done. 2 hours, 8 minutes. Go to 2 hours 10. So, yeah, I hope you had a good time. I still think, look, I don't want to say that I don't want to leave this episode with you thinking that I don't like this episode. I do like this episode. It's just the things that were done wrong could be done better. And that's pretty much all I can really say. So, I hope you had a good time.
I always do, mate. And next week we're going to be asking that question, aren't we? Are you my mummy?
Oh, that one. Yes.
Yes.
And there's a kid that knows how to socially distance. He's even wearing a gas mask. You can't take that gas mask off. So have a good one, and we shall see you next week. Take care.